Welcome to the INFOWARS Nightly News. I'm your host, Jakari Jackson. It is June 24th, 2016. And here's a look at our top stories.
Tonight, it's Independence Day in the UK as a stunning populist revolt breaks the UN chain of the political establishment. Brexit, the dawn of a populist uprising. But don't expect the elite to take this lying down. Then, Bernie Sanders says he will vote for Hillary Clinton.
Are you going to vote for Hillary Clinton in November?
Yes. Yeah, I think the issue right here is I'm going to do everything I can to defeat Donald Trump.
And why does the IRS need AR-15s?
Jeff Duncan says he saw IRS special agents using semi-automatic rifles at a gun range. Now he wants answers to why the agency needs that type of firepower.
All that plus much more up next on the INFOWARS Nightly News.
Brexit represents nothing less than a stunning populist revolt and a complete rejection of the political establishment. After months of endless fear-mongering and propaganda, after months of trying to shame us into voting Remain, politicians, celebrities, economists, bankers, you all failed spectacularly.
It's a victory for ordinary people, decent people. It's a victory against the big merchant banks, against the big businesses, and against big politics. And I'm proud of everybody that had the courage, in the face of all the threats, everything they were told, they had the guts to stand up and do the right thing.
Brexit is also a devastating example of how the deceitful media is losing its power to control the narrative. But don't expect the elite to take this lying down. Here's what the political class will do in response. They'll blame the next ISIS terror attack in Europe on the instability caused by Brexit. As always, it will have nothing whatsoever to do with Islam. They'll blame the popping of the financial bubble that's been totally inevitable for years anyway on Brexit. They'll then try to offer Britain a new deal to stay in the EU, or they'll just make us vote again in another referendum until they get the result they want, like they did in France, Ireland, and the Netherlands. These people are snakes. Don't think the battle is won. It's only just beginning, because the political class is backed up by an army of authoritarian, anti-democratic, leftist morons, thousands of whom have already signed a petition to hold another referendum. Sky News and the BBC are also floating this second referendum crap. Listen up, lefties. I know you're upset that months of virtue signalling about how progressive you are for voting for Remain on Facebook has turned out to be a total waste of time. But you lost. Get over it. Maybe you'll now finally realise that calling people racist or Nazis over and over again isn't an argument. It doesn't work anymore. I mean, look at some of the reaction. The bedwetting and the toy throwing from leftists today is delectable.
Brexit is an incredibly sad victory for racists and bigots, and much that is vile in the world.
Oh look, another arrogant, sneering, loathsome elitist who is on the wrong side of history. Just like Obama and Hillary are on the wrong side of history.
Today is like waking up to find out the Nazis won the Second World War.
Yeah, that's not an overreaction at all, is it?
I'm scared. Jokes aside, I'm actually scared. Today an older generation has voted to ruin the future for the younger generation. I'm scared!
Oh, you mean the same older generation whose fathers fought and died to make sure you wouldn't be ruled from Germany in the first place?
The fact older generations have reaped the benefits and pulled the EU from my generation? Furious! My generation wanted in. It's our time.
Right, because youth unemployment in EU countries is really low, isn't it?
Good to see we'll be staying in the EU. If I wake up to Nigel Farage's smiling face, I'll kill myself. Genuinely scared for the future?
I know, right? What are we gonna do with all this new sovereignty and money? It's terrifying! But Brexit is about more than just getting out of the EU. It's about reclaiming some genuine sense of patriotism after decades of being told that we're a country whose glory days are long gone. A country that should constantly apologise for its colonial history, constantly being derided as small-minded little Englanders, constantly being lectured that we're racist, merely for expressing concern about mass immigration. This is a rejection of the politics of fear, the politics of grief. This is a new morning for Great Britain. This is the dawn of a populist uprising. This is a catalyst for the rest of Europe to throw off the shackles of the EU. Let's not allow the political class and the authoritarian left to hijack what we've all worked so hard to achieve. Brexit is a crushing victory for the people against the establishment. Get used to it. There are many more to come.
That was a fantastic report from Paul Joseph Watson. Now, you've heard what the crew has to say about this matter with the Brexit. And when it comes to politics, especially things that go on in other countries, I'm interested to hear opposing points of view, because I'm always open to the fact that there may be something that I didn't take into account, or maybe I'm looking at through an American glass, an American type of system, and maybe those views don't exactly match up with the people who live there on the ground. So I went to the interwebs and I found this article talking about British celebrities and pop culture icons reacting to the Brexit, because, you know, celebrities just love to give their opinions on things if they think it will get them some publicity. Let's start with J.K. Rowling. She said, Scotland will seek independence now. Cameron's legacy will be breaking up two unions. Neither needed to happen. Now, once again, I don't live there. I don't know the sentiments of all the people there, but just looking at this concern about Scotland seeking independence, I don't know what's wrong with seeking independence, because we have it here in this country. We celebrate every July 4th. So maybe she's looking at this at a different angle than I am, but just the fact that somebody may seek independence doesn't really bother me that much at all. We also have Hugh Laurie. He is Dr. House. He says the first hairline crack in the plasterwork. England fans will be paying 25 quid for a bottle of beer by Monday. Now, to this, Leanne went out earlier today and she shot a man on the street, and she was talking to some of the people, and they said that their currency has deflated, I guess is the proper terminology, and now their dollar or their euro, whatever, is worth less now than it was before. So we see this continuing. And also, I was watching mainstream just a few minutes ago. They have the big stock market with the big red arrow going down. Was it 600 or so points? And it's bringing people to question, is this just a temporary growing pain? Is this something that's going to persist going on into the future? But many people, including financial analysts that we've had on this show, say that it's pretty much the bankers, people in charge, trying to scare people into rethinking the action that happened here today. But like I said, only time will tell. And there's another interesting one from MKO. I'm not exactly sure who that is, but they made it on USA Today. It says, Britain, don't play yourselves. You aren't the Beyonce of the EU. Your solo career is very uncertain, basically saying that you don't have what it takes. You know, like Beyonce was in Destiny's Child, you don't have what it takes to make it solo. So there's a lot of different opinions out there. I even made a rare Twitter post. We had this conversation a couple of days ago. I think it was me, Biggs, and I think Marcos is back there running the board. And we were talking about how I don't post on Twitter all that much. And then Biggs told a bunch of his followers to follow me. And then I got a bunch of Biggs followers. So thank you, Rambo Biggs followers. But I sent out this tweet today, and I really just wanted to get a feeling for what people thought about the Brexit. And I said good, bad, and different. You know, my post wasn't leaning one way or the other. And I guess I should have been a little more specific, because I got a lot of Americans that responded, and I know they're Americans because they said that in their post. But for the few people who were in the EU, they were for it. Granted, you know, I have a lot of INFOWARS followers, and they have those type of viewpoints, but it's not all the type of opinions that I just read here is the point I'm trying to make to you. But we'll definitely be covering this in the coming weeks and months. Now let's talk about something else. As we talk about diversity and things going on overseas, because we oftentimes look at it through the American glass, but what do people in other countries think? You think of the bathroom bills that are going on here, boycotts going on at Target, all those things going around. And when you talk about what you should call somebody, it's always that tricky thing, because there's always the politically correct terms, the preferred terms. I'll give you an example. We'll talk about the LGBT thing with this in just 1 second. But I was at, I think, Comic-Con of all places. I was talking to this guy. He's from the UK, and we were having this conversation, and he was like, no, you're supposed to address me as sir. He said it politely, but he was correcting me. He's like, you're supposed to address me as sir, and not sir as in the polite way, but like he's an actual sir. Going back to lineage, I'm not exactly sure what that is in their standards, but he was a sir. And I was like, bro, there is no way I was supposed to know that by looking and talking to you that you were a sir. But it's these type of politically correct things that they expect you to know. And now a German MP is trolling diversity by addressing 60 different genders before he started his speech.
Meine Damen und Herren, sehr geehrte Schwule, sehr geehrte Lesben, sehr geehrte Androgyne, sehr geehrte Bigender, Gendervariable, Genderqueer, Intersexuelle, weder noch Geschlechter, Geschlechtslose, Nicht-Binäre, Pangender und Pangeschlechtlichen, Transmenschen, Interstern männlich.
Oh Gott, ich hatte ja eine Zwischenfrage.
Ich bin ja noch nicht mit der Begrüßung fertig, Herr Präsident. Entschuldigung.
And it begs the question, what are you supposed to call somebody? Can you say mother and father anymore? Some places don't want you to do that. That's not inclusive enough. You can't say, excuse me, sir, that's not inclusive enough. Excuse me, miss, you may offend somebody. And it's really no shortage of this going on. I remember that piece Badandi did a while back. He was talking to the Satanists, and he was talking to a man in drag, I guess is the most polite way I could say it. And he was like, hey, excuse me. And she was like, I'm a lady. And it's just those type of things, like, how are you supposed to know? Is it a long-haired guy or is it a lady? Like, how do they self-identify? There's no way to really know. So I think it is quite funny this guy decided to call him out on that. Now, coming back here to some domestic news, you guys know we've done a lot of reports going along the border and talking about illegal immigration. And I had this conversation, or I have these recurring conversations with people. And they say that no person is illegal. I'm like, bro, I'm not saying that you're an illegal human being, that you don't have a right to exist. I'm saying that there's a legal way to enter the country. Example, I recently traveled outside the country, off the continent, as a matter of fact. And when I got to my destination, even though I had my documents, I had my passport, I had my visa, I had my bags checked by TSA or whatever the foreign equivalent was, pat downs, the whole nine. With all that said, had I walked out of that airport without checking into customs, I would have committed a crime and thus committed, here comes that trigger word, illegal action, illegal activity. That's what it was. And same thing if you go out of your way to avoid a border checkpoint. You got a nice paved road going up to the border checkpoint, but you decide to walk through the bush, getting attacked, by rattlesnakes and stuff. You're going out of your way to avoid that checkpoint. So with this in mind, did you go through the checkpoint, yes or no? Did you go through customs, yes or no? If you answered no to either one of those questions, you entered the country illegally. It has nothing to do with race, religion, why you're there, how long you're staying, where you're going, or anything else like that. Did you come into the country legally? And now we see this story. U.S. soldiers arrested in alleged illegal immigration smuggling ring. It says U.S. authorities are investigating an illegal immigration smuggling operation allegedly run by active duty military soldiers out of Fort Bliss, and that's in El Paso. And Fort Bliss is the El Paso Intelligence Center, EPIC, that's quite the EPIC acronym, a Federal Tactical Operations Intelligence Center. We are aware that 2 Fort Bliss soldiers have been arrested, a spokesman said. We can confirm that they are both assigned to the 377 Transportation Company here. However, this is an ongoing investigation and we cannot comment further. And it says that the soldiers were paid $1,000 each for a successful smuggling trip. They would have been paid $1,500 for a June 18th run, but they were busted by the Border Patrol. And this is always a thing. And I know we gave the Border Patrol a lot of heat. And there are things the Border Patrol does that I don't like when they have the checkpoint, 100 miles from the border. And they're saying, are you an American citizen? I'm like, why are you asking me these questions? Like, well, we're doing immigration. I'm like, am I immigrating someplace? I'm going towards the United States, not Mexico. Why are you asking me these questions? So I don't like stuff like that. But by and large, I think the Border Patrol does have their hands tied behind their back because they're told a bunch of stuff that they can or cannot do. We've seen the reports, not just our reports. You go down to South Texas and Falfurrias, those areas like that. They have the local news going out to private land. And she's standing there with the guy and the people were coming over the border. And she said, the reporter, her words, it's like they're waiting for a bus. It's like they're at a bus stop just waiting for the Border Patrol come and pick them up and, take them to the station and then eventually, get them the tickets to wherever they have to go. We brought you those reports. But with this, I do like to see the Border Patrol doing what they can to stop the flow of illegal immigration. Like I said, I have no issue with people who come here illegally, but there is a legal way in which to do that. Now, talking about illegal activity, violations of your free speech. We see this all over the country, whether it's in schools or city council meetings or whatever else. They always want to stem your freedom of speech, going as far to even arrest guys for talking at city council meetings. It is completely ridiculous. But now the city of Cleveland is backtracking a earlier action that they put out. Originally, they were saying that they were not going to allow pro-Donald Trump groups, or to be fair, anti-Donald Trump groups either, to come out and protest him or protest for him at the Cleveland conventions. And now they're backing off of that. A U.S. district judge agreed with pro-Trump organizations represented by the ACLU, which sued Cleveland to overturn